Today, another episode of the Blueprint with myself, Oana, and of course Andrew Bell. Andrew is not here. Andrew is at the what was the conference called, Oana?
Accelerate.
So Andrew, like most of the industry, are Accelerate. But I just want to let you know, like you would on Facebook, I'm going to mark myself and Oana safe, right? So we're safe. So we're this side. You can understand we're safe. We're not over accelerate, and but you know, I hope they enjoy it. But today, Oana's back, so we're going to have a little chat. We won't do a super long one, maybe 30, 45 minutes. Last week, I dropped a big article on MCPs and how they can benefit your business. And I'm going to go through some of this stuff today. You can obviously read the article as well, put it in the show notes. And I'm going to discuss it with Oana because it's something that she's not massively up on. And a lot of sellers are not, and I don't think they understand it's the path to resistance is low. I mean, if you can't do make.com or N8N, the chances are it's fine because you can do MCPs. But I think they come across as an example quite technical. But once you get going and you understand, so we'll cover that. So welcome to the show, Oana.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to learn about this. I know I've been asking you questions about it, and I'm like trying to get to it. I feel I understand the basics, but I really think that diving deep into and really understanding the power behind utilizing NCPs can be a game changer for many brands out there.
Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll bring the article up because it's a bit easier just to go through it on the screen that way. Let me
And
just
by
get
the way,
that.
congrats on the features. I know Kevin and John Dirk, it's also
Yeah, no, John, Max, Kevin, all got behind it, which is really, really good. So thank you guys for that. So probably the best thing is if people are not aware, I did do a show briefly with one of my engineers a couple of weeks ago, Leo, but it might sound complicated, but what is an MCP? So MCP is basically stands for Model Context Protocol. And if you think about the way that your phone is connected using a universal connection, which is the USB-C connector that you charge your phones with, not everything, but let's say that's in the main. It's just the way that AI can connect to each other. This was developed back in, well, not developed, it got its first release back in October last year, dropped by Anthropic. And effectively, what it is, it's a way to connect devices together, or in this case, LLMs, as an example, is a universal connection. And they developed it as a protocol, which is for good reason, especially when you think about Claude and and obviously a lot of developers use it, especially now as well with Claude Code. But it's the best in class when it comes to programming. Don't at me. I'm not going to debate you over benchmarks that go out of date every 3 to 15 hours. But to get the benefit out of it as a seller, you're kind of already really using MCPs per se. So, Awana, do you use agentic browsers?
of course. I started laughing, you know why.
Go on.
Agentic.
Oh, yeah. Okay, we'll leave that one alone. But yeah,
Yeah, don't go there.
no, I'm not going to go there. He's embarrassed himself enough. So let's look at it for what it is. People are already using MCPs. If you're, say, using Genspark browser, or if you're using Comet, a lot of people are using Comet as well, and you decide to give it access, right, to your calendars, your Gmail, etc., that is a native connection of an MCP, right? Which
Claude also
means
does
it's a click and play. It's very simple integration, right? But then you've got more complicated MCPs, like you've got the one for Seller Central. That's a little bit more complex to set up. But you can also use an MCP that you connect, and this is with Claude. I'll do a demo in a minute to show, because it'll give you a better visible ideas. But you can use this as a way to control Seller Central, as an example, right? And let's be honest, most people end up losing their lives in Seller Central and the day-to-day drudgery of running an Amazon business. Give me some things that drive you mad, and maybe if I give you context, so whether it's pulling reports or stuff you would like to do, and then I can give you the context of it so people would understand, go, oh, okay, you use this, you do this, you do that. And then I'll explain some of the complexity, or if it's easy to do.
So I think, the first thing that comes to my mind that drives me mad is, despite the fact that as every seller, you have many tools out there and you look at data from different angles,
Yeah.
it feels like it's never 100% unified,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
And you have a report for this, and then you have a different report, and you end up with 20 reports that you need to look at,
Yeah.
which means that behind the scenes, you have a good amount of people that are downloading these reports and uploading them, and then most likely you're paying subscriptions for specific, tools that
Yeah.
also give you that. So I think this is an everyday pain for every
Hmm.
business out there, and it still feels like many times it's still not enough. And something that happened to me last night, at one point we realized that, data, for example, from MRP and from the reports that I use on a daily basis,
Yeah.
didn't contain all the data from DSP.
Yeah.
So that added one more report to the table,
Hmm.
right? And when you finally think you're there, and when you finally think you have the whole picture, and you have 10 meetings per week in
Yeah.
which you just review different reports with the team,
Yeah.
it's still, I feel that that's most likely a pain that everybody goes through.
Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to reverse up and then I'll go forward, because then I can go through a bit of a setup which will make things a bit easier, and then fully answer your question. So what I'm showing you here, this is in Genspark, right? So this
Hmm.
is a screen grab. When you log into Genspark and you go to the settings, you've got access, and they've got MCPs here. Now, granted, this is mainly for programmers, right?
Hmm.
So you're going to look at that and you're going to see a lot of GitHub links. You're going to see a lot of related to databases, etc., etc. So if we look at the different types of platform, you've got Genspark and you've got Comet, sorry, and these implementations, they're hidden behind the interface, right? And there are some limitations, but then there's also the ability to do customizations, right? Now, I use mainly Claude Desktop, and
All right.
then this gives me full custom configurations, which I'll show you in a moment, some stuff, because once you've got a handful of these MCPs set up, some of these MCPs will actually set the other MCPs up. Right. So the other day, as an example, and I covered it in the article, I did it as a test. The first test was, can you set up sequential thinking? Right. So think step by step, not what you see in the options inside of Claude. This is separate. This is a stage process that I also use to help reduce hallucination. Like I would say, can you use your sequential thinking MCP and confirm that the information you've provided here, because LLMs hallucinate and they
Yeah.
make up all of these different stories. They just gaslight you. We've done this. No, you haven't. And then you ask it to review it. And with that system and some other instructions that I have, it means that they can come back and said, I bullshitted here. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is the truth. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Right.
Or they just go on until you kind of like, I'm going to unplug you if you don't stop bullshitting
No,
me right now.
well, yeah, the thing is, then I lose out. So as we're looking at things now, everyone knows about make.com, everyone knows about N8N, right? Some people find it very difficult. I don't personally like N8N, but then I had got two Claude projects that just builds everything. I then take that JSON file or I cut and paste that flow directly into N8N and give it to the engineers to fuck around in the code, right? I don't want to play with that shit. But for others, to learn N8N is going to be a learning curve. And then you've got to understand that you've got APIs, you've got custom code, you've got flows like N8N, and then you've got MCPs, which comes into the point of human in the loop. So where that differs, let's say that you've sat on LinkedIn and you go flow in the comments and they give you their broken flow that's no good for your business, and then you try and put it all together, you're going to struggle, right?
Yeah.
But equally, I'm joking aside, equally, there's brilliant times to run N8N. That's if you're running a rigid system. But let's say that you want to take a bit of data. Like I'll give you an example. The other day, I used the MCP for Stripe, right? And then I used the MCP for WordPress, where we host the site. Now, what it worked out is with all the sneaky fees that I have for card payments, I normally eat the card fees, right, on the events. Some of these cards will cut fees if it's an international debit card and you're selling a ticket for, I don't know, you sell two tickets and it comes to 1,000 or whatever it may be. Some of these I'm eating £70 in fees. Now, if I pass that on to a
That's
seller,
significant.
if I pass that on to the seller, they'll bounce at checkout. They're not paying £70 in fees. They'll go,
No,
Dan, fuck off, right? And then they'll bounce. But they won't tell me
with
because
all
I
respect.
won't. I don't have any video footage and surveillance in the there to look at them. Joking aside, so I was able within 10 minutes to work out where I'm bleeding on these fees, what
Hmm.
to change it to. Then it wrote some code because what I'm going to do with upcoming events is I've got some code now that will pop up in the checkout and it will say in that instance,
Hmm.
would you like to save £70 and have a discount on your ticket? Right, versus saying you owe me 70 quid. It's the ticket plus the £70 fee. It's an incentive then. So one, you're changing the language. Two, you're able to do something. So all of that information now, to get to the bottom of it and the sneaky fees to go inside of Stripe to work out what the solution is, took me 10 minutes, plus it provided the code. And I got a game plan so that if someone wants to use that, we'll still be using Stripe instead of having double reconciliation. It will just mean is that we'll hold the ticket and then they can pay by direct transfer very quickly,
Hmm.
painlessly at the checkout, right? They'll click a link and do that, and that will save them £70 and it will save me money. There's a perfect example of a human in loop experience whereby you need to get data. You may only use it once or twice, right? And you needed to get a configuration done without doing all the heavy lifting, right? It's the same thing when it comes to reports. A lot of sellers will download various different reports. So they might want to go, I'll use it as an example. Rank Radar, yeah, go in there, download the the ranking data, right? In there. They bring that over, then they want to go into Seller Central, then they may want to go into the business reports and they want to get sessions, then they want to run a PPC report, they may want to run, so they want to blend all this data together. With MCPs, you're able to do this as long as they're plugged in. You can say, go to Seller Central, grab this, bring that information in, go to Rank Radar, or not even that. If you've got like Playwright in the browser and it's open, it can go and do the action and grab it for you if it's set up correctly because you've got browser automation.
Hmm.
Let's say that you want to do things on Amazon. It's blocked most of these agentic browsers because agentic browsers don't care about frequently bought together and they haven't got any emotions to buy more products, right? So that would be a big killer for Amazon. So a lot of these guys have been blocked, but you've got Fetch, you've got Selenium, you've got Playwright. These are different ones that you plug in. It sounds complicated, but I'm going to show you some stuff in a minute, right?
And how do you fix the problem of hallucination again? Because I think
Well,
I'm
what happens is you've got with MCPs and using your data, it's more of a controlled environment. I've covered this into the article here, right? So what you've got here is AI models, right? These are prediction engines. Your
yeah,
data isn't a prediction, it's real data, right?
yeah.
So what's happened across these studies, I've had a lot of citations in there to show you this. It can reduce anywhere between 70 to 80% the
Wow.
hallucinations, especially when you're using your data, because you've got to think about how these models are working if they're
Mm-hmm.
working on predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Predictions are not facts. Yeah, so you have to be aware of things like this. So let's look at here. You've got here Amazon blocks automated scraping the text. This is why Genspark and Comet, sorry, are not ideal for a lot of stuff that people want to do on Amazon. You also have the pretty report syndrome. What that means is that most of the information that they produce, okay, in them pretty reports is junk. The reason being, when you think about what gets blocked in terms of scraping attempts, because that's what they're doing, they're going in, scraping data. So
And they
there's
hallucinate.
IP, there's certain things that will cause problems. Dynamic HTML is another thing that will cause some problems. And so what they do is something called infilling. So they'll do a thing where they'll grab the information, something will fail, they don't tell you, so they infill it, because why spoil a great story? Yeah, don't let the truth get in the way of a great story. So if we look here, for instance, there is the advantages of here. So if we look at Amazon's defense impact, you've got IP blocking, you've got rate limits, and you've got catch-alls. Yes, you can use N8N, you can build scrapers and stuff like that. But if you're not that way inclined technically, but you want to gather some information, then you can ask Claude to use Playwright to go to the product detail page and get information. Now, you do have to be careful with your commands because it can want to go in and grab everything.
Mm-hmm.
So there are different ways of doing browser automation. Okay. So it's choosing the right one and then using specific prompts, right? Instead of going in and say, can you grab the whole of this page, right, in terms of the search results? But I'm doing all this in layman's terms, by the way. So
Yeah.
if you wanted to go in and say, I want to analyze this page and there's 60 search results returned, you'll literally max the conversation because you haven't been specific on what you want. Do you want it to
Yeah.
do screen grabs? What information do you want to get? Do you want the title? Do you want the bullet points? You know, so you have to think about it a bit more, but it's more doable. And because it's like end user using these tools, you're not going to have these things where you've got this high speed automation that takes place or this high volume of automation from agentic browsers, right? So it's literally click, grab the information. Then you've got, of course, you've got to set realistic expectations. So let's get to the bit here. I'm showing you the back end here of Claude Desktop. So
Yeah.
these are MCPs. These are native connections, right? The ones below where you see local dev, these are installations. These are like more, for a better word for it, they're full MCPs versus, you know, click and go. Like I would go and gather the data that I need or the GitHub repro and the links that I need to then add this into Claude, right? So contact 7, control your Mac, Elementor, right? You're seeing in the screen grab here. But your Google Drive and your Gmail and your Google Calendar, these are already MCPs. They're just native MCPs, okay? So a lot of people have been concerned about browser injections, right? Prompt injection, sorry, using third-party browser tools and using MCPs. So you have to be careful about security. So you would set them to test as read-only, right? So here's some obvious ones here you would use, right? So you've got Google Drive, Gmail, Google Calendar. I have Notion. I don't use Slack, but others do. and then you've got local files that access on your computer, right? Now, if you want to get a little bit more advanced, what about if you want to retrieve order information, inventory management, financial data, performance metrics?
That would be
This is what,
something interesting, like the
that's
account
right.
management.
So here we've got a breakdown of the complexity. So Seller Central MPC, the difficulty of the setup is a little bit higher, it's 40%. But if you knew you could control Seller Central through MCP and pull the data that you want, right? Would you go onto Upwork and pay someone $60 to $80 to help you set up for an hour, right? And then think of the return that you would get over a period of time. Yeah. Then you've got Stripe MCP. I mentioned that earlier on. You can set these to read only. The other day I wanted to look at some event data. I went to Stripe. I said, pull up Seller Sessions SSL 2025. Then go over to WordPress, go into WooCommerce, pull up the order information, and then we cross-referenced that data and built a report. Took 5 minutes. Yeah. Generally, I've got
Rather than the manual, which would have
pull
taken
the information, speak to the team, run that through, add that to Google
days.
Sheets. So this is where I'm saying is like, you're not super limited on the lower level native versions, right? So this is giving you a bit of an understanding of the setup. So once I set up control my Mac and I use what's called file system, right? I then said, Claude, can you set up sequential thinking for me? It went to the terminal, it put the code in there, it went to the JSON file for the configuration for the MCP, it then rebooted itself
Okay.
and it was working. So I actually asked Claude, why? Because it's now got automation on my desktop. So even if the first part is getting going, right, and maybe getting a bit of help, you write a spec on whatever job site you want for a developer, pay anywhere from 20 to, I don't know, $30 an hour. It isn't a super high level skill in terms of programming. It's the same with N8N. Like, it might be difficult to us as non-programmers and it's a bit fiddly, but a junior engineer with a 18 months experience does not have a problem of going to get API keys and plugging in nodes, right? And getting a flow going, right? I'll make it sound more simple than it is. It's simple for
I
them.
wanted to say that. It sounds easy, but
It's
once
simpler for them because that's what they do,
on a
right? If
daily
you ask
basis.
it, they do it on a daily basis. It's not a high-end task for them to achieve when it comes to programming,
Yeah.
right? Because that is their skill set. But for us who are not programmers, it looks difficult, yeah? But what I'm trying to get over is that it isn't like this massive bridge to automation. I've been working with engineers since 2008. Right now, and especially with the MCPs, I keep 3 engineers busy, right? I've got Milan, I've got Leo on the automation side now. I've got Ellis over at Databril, and then I'm working with the Data Dive engineering team. So I'm not saying I'm keeping Data Dive busy. I'm just saying I'm busy with working with 3 of my own engineering team
You're in the
and
weeds.
having time to do that with them because I have automation set up that helps me with my workflow, which allows me to do 10x more than I could normally achieve. I haven't got to write specifications. I don't have to do any project management. I live in Claude and I just send it, okay, to Notion, and it's all built out in Notion, and I've got about 75% of the project management down. And yeah, so I've shaved 75% of the project management because of the automation, right? So here are the actions that you're doing. You're going to install the MCP, you're going to add the configuration, right? And then you're going to test the connection. You can watch a video on that and do that in 20 minutes. It's following steps and looking at it, right? So it's not a super technical job. It's just paying attention to do it, of which you're going to get faster. So let's look at some of the daily automations that you can do with the Gmail MCP. Read invoice emails automatically, extract amounts from the vendor details, manage sheets, update expense trackers, generate your P&L, right? Or update a P&L. You've got your seller central, right? Check current stock levels, analyze sales velocity and the historical data of depending on what you're choosing to do, right? If you're running the report or you're going to use browser automation to do the check-in for you. Now, I will say this: you can use. I don't know if you use the assistant here on Comet. That's really handy. So there's a difference between being logged in. Like, so at the moment, so I'm logged into the Seller Sessions website. Yeah. But if I wanted to go here, I can then ask it questions to take over the browser to go to this page, find this issue, and then I go in and manually make the changes. That is what's good about, Comet and browser automation. Is when you're getting blocked from places like Amazon, which is an area where you want to work, that's when you have to start thinking about using third-party MCPs or building third-party scrapers if you're that way inclined, or get someone to build it. So if we go to a setup example here, right? To set up your Gmail, you're looking at 2 minutes. I set up the Gmail API, and all I did was ask Claude. I said, I want to set up the Gmail API because I want it to respond to emails for me, not just read them. Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So all I did with Claude
So looking at this, responding, can it also respond to customers like you would train?
Yeah. What I will say though, I'm going to be real with you. The speed of which you can work with writing emails inside Claude and the context window of maxing out the conversation, because you've got to imagine if your inbox has got 10,000 messages, you've got to be very specific of your actions. Otherwise, it's going to have a splurge and search, right? Where is it good to go in the inbox to respond to someone? Claude, go into my Gmail, look up this supplier. Here is the email address. Pull up the last 5 emails. Write me a summary of those and send that to X, Y, and Z. That's when it's useful. If you're sitting in your email responding, I use Voicey, and then I go click edit, and it does the email for me, like updates the email. So I voice record, because that's faster for me to go bang, 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 all the way through the different emails. But where this is good is, let's say you want to pull up a load of information, or you want to pull up some pro forma invoices. You may want to get a load of receipts together, right? Pull up my last 10 subscription emails for ChatGPT Pro Plan, right? Pulls them all together, right? Then you've got them all together. You know where they are. You can search your inbox for that. But then you might want to take some data from there and compile it for a reason and give it to someone. You haven't got to touch your inbox to do that. So there's going to be times where N8N is great, right? For rigid automations that is behind the scenes. But if you want to adapt with N8N, you have to go and make changes, right? To adapt it to the needs that it needs. Whereas stuff like this is why the human in the loop works. So you want to use APIs. There are some things that are going to be done with custom code. There are things that are perfect for N8N. But if you want to have a co-pilot to work on your business for anything, pretty much you can use MCPs and just get more done. So basically, my accounts team now, as of this week, will be set up. My design team's got it. Engineering's team's got it. I've got it. When Kerry comes back and we do the conferences, because she comes back periodically for the roll-in for the events, she'll be using MCPs. Because for me now, it's absolutely pointless asking you to do tasks that I know you can do with MCPs 100 times faster. Now, I'm not greedy and I'm not tight. I'd rather you use the MCPs and do something that moves the needle. Do something creative even. But to sit there and data bash all day is an absolute waste of time. And if I'm going to ask you to do it, I may as well do it myself with an MCP. So why pay you? Do you understand my thought process? I know there's these clowns that say, get rid of your team. We replaced them with these broken flows from N8N, but they're quick to sell you on LinkedIn these broken flows. If they had saved all that money, why are they sharing them with you when really it's a lead magnet? Yeah, so they're full of shit. But the point I'm trying to get to, if you enable your team with this kind of setup, right? Even if it's just basic, accounts team will have one, so they're pulling up all the spreadsheets. They can run in, I don't know if you know about Claude's update now. You can start running reports properly now. You can give it information, disparate reports, and it will build out all the analysis for you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That dropped last Thursday. I think it might be on the max plan at the moment, but it'll roll out again soon. So pulling the data together is going to be quite easy once you've got it in Claude, right, beyond the MCPs. Now, if we come down to here, where else shall I go to? Yeah, so you can look at the risk assessment of this. Just look at, because you've got prompt injection. So some of the stories that you'll hear is that they'll put a script in the code, in the email, in the body of the email. So it tricks the agentic browser to think you're saying, can you send me over X, Y, and Z and the logins for this and logins for that, right? And don't forget in your inbox that you've already used an MCP with this browser, if you have, which is a native, so it's a click and play, it's still MCP, you're still at risk using something like Comet and Genspark of attacks from prompt injections if you're not careful. So some people might say, yeah, I won't use MCPs because I'm scared of this, but in actual fact, you're already using them, plugging them, the native MCPs in, i.e. your Gmail or your Google for Business, which is probably loaded with lots of personal information. So that's the thing you've got to be careful of. But when you weigh out the risk, you've got a good chance of being suspended at some point, your business on Amazon. They shoot you in the face first, ask questions later, right?
Yes, that sounds like Amazon.
Yeah, false claims. So we already work with a risk, right? But then you've got practical implementations whereby you start low risk, read only. Right? Just think about a lot of people that have VAs, not all, but there are VAs where they've got to micromanage them, right? And every stage of the process. Now, some of those possibly, but not all, depends on the task and where it's limited to. A lot of the guys that were going through, I mean, Jeff won't mind me saying this. A few months ago, he said, Dan, I need to automate this project. I've got VAs going through 8 hours a day repeating the same process. Now, depending on the security of the data and whether it's viable, right, and you're happy to do it, that same VA that done the 8 hours a day will suddenly do it in 90 minutes, 2 hours a day, freeing up their time to be more effective elsewhere, because most of it is grunt work. And again, you could say, well, yeah, but you could set up a load of N8N automation, but a lot of the cases with that 8 hour long day doing all these things, they are not, if this does this, that will do that. If this does this, that will do that. It takes the human eye and then using reasoning, their own reasoning, to make changes as they go. So for tasks like that, it can be very useful. Like, you know me, I've got ADHD, but I've rebuilt all of my inbox to zero. Right, I've got my whole desktop computer, the Mac here, all the file systems all been rebuilt, and it's got a maintenance, so I can click a button, it cleans up all my messy files because I don't like filing shit, but I need it clean. And then it's done all of my Google Drive, like 11 years worth of Google Drive, cleaned it, restructured it, new folder structure, and moved everything around. And now I just go Claude. Go to persistent memory, because you can now give Claude a persistent memory, and say, go and look at the operations, clean up desktop computer and the drive, and move the files to the right places. Yeah. So a lot of these things are going to be very, very useful in the day-to-day of running an Amazon business. Most sellers will always tell me they don't have time, right? And a lot of the
which is true. Yeah.
Which is true, right? So they've got a long list of everything they want to implement. And really, they should be spending most of their time on products, right? The pipeline, making great products, because you can slip in some places. You can have a weave and you can have a bobble.
Yeah.
If you've got great products, most things will work out in the end. And if you've got a great product, you can always pay someone if you don't want to do that area of the business, right? It doesn't
Yeah.
matter how much you know about ranking. If you've got a shit product, you're just going to be propping it up with
I mean,
giveaways or whatever that you're doing, right?
as a seller, you don't necessarily need to know everything.
Yeah.
That's why you need a team, and that's why you need people that help you with specific tasks, right? You
Yeah.
will have experts in different areas of the business. And I think that that should be the focus, just like you said, make sure that you continue to enhance your product, assure quality product,
Yeah.
expand your catalog, and at the end, just make sure that you find people that will help you. I'm trying to be nice here and not go into the clown world, but make sure that whatever it is that people that you are following or you're listening to and trying to learn, just make sure that you add those people to the list of things that you get and then you bring back home and implement in your business.
Yeah. Indeed. So
Don't treat launches based on the honeymoon period.
someone was doing that the other day. So when I go back to what I said earlier on, yeah. So when are each of these solutions useful, right? So Zapier, simple and predictable, right?
Yeah.
Now you can use Zapier. Let's say you've got intermediate things that you do that are not running 24/7. Then you're not going to spend a shit ton of money, right? They're going to
Yeah.
be these reasonable volume of tasks that isn't really going to hit the pocket. So you can use Zapier for that. N8N is going to be more for complex workflows, right? Multiple
Took us how
integrations.
many months to create a tool? 7, 8, 6?
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember.
I'm still building the front end UI. I'm nearly done with that, but and I've just had to move it over because I've upgraded and moved over to Claude Code, which I love now because of
Yeah.
the context window hitting the conversation limits. But so
But
what
to
you've
get
got
it
here.
running, it was a lot of work. So not an easy one.
Yeah, but do you know the thing is, we've been on it about a year, right? And what's happened over that time, things have become easier in different areas, right? So if you think about like perfect example is image prompting. Now we've got Nano Banana, right? I've got all of these complex because I hate prompting. I've got all of these complex projects that does, JSON builds prompts around JSONs for previously for images. I've got no code prompting, and then you've got Nano Banana comes along, and you can literally do anything you want and get a reasonable output without knowing much about prompting. So we've
Yeah.
gone from engineering the prompts or using tools to convert, which I always want to use the microphone, my talk faster than I can type. And then I give it the project instruction and I get perfectly executed prompts that I can cut and paste across.
Yeah.
Same thing with N8N, right? Now I've got two N8N project builders. One now is got with the MCPs because the MCPs pulls up all the latest documentation. You've got to remember with AI, there's a point of which they've captured data up to. So within a few days, weeks, or hours, there's an MCP called Context 7. And what that does, it gives you the most up-to-date information. So when I'm building out the flows, I have all the most up-to-date information and it generate the JSON file. There are other configurations for it as well. It just means that these can be built very, very quickly and you skip a lot of the steps. And I can skip the steps because I can just give the JSON file to the engineering team and say, plug that shit in and make it work. That's it. I ain't got to worry about all the bullshits with the comma and the code and spending 8 hours. And sellers can do this as well if they're willing to spend 40, 60, 80 bucks. So you ask yourself, and I've given these flows away. Anyone can have them. I'm not precious over them because I want sellers to build. But they seem to stop at the concern, oh, well, it needs technical, or they try and do it themselves. And there is a learning curve, right?
Yeah.
I think you
Yes.
got to probably look at 60 to 80 hours minimum to get comfortable, right? But what if that's not your learning style? Then
What
it's
if
going to be,
you're easy, like, slower? Then it takes more, and then
well,
you
but this
should
is
take
it. It might
time.
not be your thing. Like
Yeah.
I recognize I'm more of a visual learner. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to play around with code. This is why I build all my stuff. I start with the front end.
Yeah.
When I'm building anything, I just jam it and then I do what's called a reverse PRD. So instead of writing the PRD to build whatever I'm building, I vibe with Claude. I build it. I get a front end design. I like that. Build out the logic with Claude going back and forth. Then I
Mm-hmm.
say, do me a reverse PRD because you said the new the analyzer that I built.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show it on the screen in a minute because people will get to see what you can build
Yeah.
by joining some of the dots, right?
I do have a hard stop. Just to
Yep, no
put it.
problem. We're going to wrap in 5-10 minutes. I
Yeah.
just want to go through this so that people can go
Mm-hmm.
and have a look at the article. There's getting started with all your different MCPs, what to do, give it to your VA. But what you'll find with what's going on now, of course the AI industry is going to have the biggest adoption rate,
Yes.
but by it says MCP by early 2025 because this came out in October last year. So
Okay.
imagine 90% sounds a lot, right? But these are employees that work at AI companies that use AI tools all day. Of course, they're going to have a high number.
Absolutely.
And now you've got OpenAI's joined the market and everyone's supporting MCPs. Now, Claude is going to have a Claude plugin, which they're trialing at the moment. I've seen some videos on it and it's much more secure. Claude is a bit more conscious about security and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I believe you're going to see in the next 18 months is that MCPs are going to become closer to installing a Chrome extension,
Yeah.
right? Because you're even getting MCP stores now. I've got about 5 sites that are aggregators. Like when I installed in Claude Code yesterday, I sat down with Leo. He did help me with that. And I installed 11 MCPs in one sitting, right?
How
And
long did it take you?
I had Leo with me. So
Okay.
I'm not going to pretend anything different. Leo's with me, but I wrote up the SOP or
Mm-hmm.
run it through our tools to do the SOP. But then it gives me so many different options to run and make Claude code more powerful when I'm not a programmer, right?
Yeah.
It's using a terminal effectively, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at these, they're saying adoption 86%. These are all citations. You can read them for yourself. I think in the next 18 months, like your average Amazon seller and the guys who are into AI because some are not, right? They're into product and they don't focus on that.
Yeah.
I think if you start to adopt this now, even at a lower level, you'll see it come easier and easier to install these. And even if you take the lists from these, book someone, do a shared screen, get them to install it for you, spend $50. You've just put your productivity on the next level. You've got then Claude running your desktop, running your file system, checking your emails, checking reports, pulling stuff using the browser, completing forms and stuff. Yes, Comet can do that. You can combine two. But where Comet and where others are blocked, you got the both options. But I think the most powerful point, if you find a way that you would take the SOPs in your business and then you use those SOPs to determine your MCPs, because you've already
Mm-hmm.
got SOPs. It just
Absolutely.
means you haven't got to do the shit yourself. You do that, then suddenly you're going to put a lot more productivity on your team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And one of the places where sellers now need to squeeze because Amazon squeezed everywhere else
Yeah.
is how do you get more bang for your buck out your team without
Exactly.
overrawing them? And
Yeah.
how do you get the creativity levels up? Because even if you're an agency, let's say you're not one of the big sweatshops
Mm-hmm.
who's on low pay, got low paid staff, you know, you can be a very good agency with a good team. You give them MCPs,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get better benefits because they'll be able to do stuff One, it'd be more accurate. Two, they can go 10 times faster. Three, you end up getting a better service out of them. Four, they become more competitive because the larger sweatshops out there are going to be stuck to their model. They go, oh, yeah, this AI shit, blah, 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 blah. And then they'll get blockbusted at some point. But these are a lot of competitive advantage. Now, the downside of this as well, you can bet your bottom dollar that your favorite black hatters will be using MCPs as well,
Yeah,
right? For
absolutely.
different reasons. So,
Absolutely.
what you've got to look at for MCPs for you is how do you get the most out of them for your business and when should you use them? When should you use make.com? When should you use N8N? When should you use Zapier, a little bit more expensive versus N8N because you haven't got to do many controls and it's actually faster to set up the zaps through the MCP because you plug in Zapier into Claude, right? You plug in Zapier into Claude and then you
And
call it
it
from
does
there
it.
and then
Yeah.
you can set it all up. You've got access to build out from 5,000 different softwares that you can combine together,
And I
right?
think it all comes down to understanding the power of it and then prioritizing what you want to get set up first, which
Yeah,
has the biggest impact on your team
yeah,
and your business. And just work your way through that. But yeah, incredible point of view. And I think that ones that it might be a handful to
yeah,
really understand it, but I think it's amazing. I looked at it and initially was like, oh my God,
yeah,
it's a lot. But yeah, I will definitely try to dig more into it. But because even for me, it feels like it might be complicated. Just like you said, you need to sit down and really truly understand it and then take it from there.
yeah. I think the jury's still going to be out, and I think there are going to be adoption from core people. I just want to move people beyond image prompting and
Yes,
and let them understand that if I can do it, you can fucking do it. Because I'm not a
absolutely.
programmer, I can't write a line of code, but
Yep.
there are means and ways to do these things. And when you think, let's say that you've got a budget that you would spend on team members, third party people, that work with you and the business, or you got VAs where you want to give them a bit more work, but you can't, there's an opportunity there. You look at what the output is and
Mhm.
how you can give them the tools to help them become better and faster and more efficient for you.
Absolutely.
You do that across your business. Could it really, MCPs, think about it, imagine getting rid of all the grunt work and allow your team to be creative and do things that move the needle, right?
Yeah.
So this is where you can save money in your business because you're more
Mhm.
productive and you can actually get more throughput from your team. So if in a year, the development team, if you've got more than a few, you've got your marketing team, your development team, the day-to-day running of your seller central account and any third-party sites that you're selling on, TikTok or whatever. When you look at it in that stretch, I mean, there's one of the things in the articles. 75% of performance marketers are now using MCPs.
That's significant.
75%. So
Hmm.
all your favorite affiliate marketers and that kind of marketer trying to be nice to
Try
affiliates.
to be nice. Try to be nice.
There are some nice ones.
But
There are
yeah,
some nice, but it's think about what affiliate is, right?
yeah.
You're doing it to get the biggest commission. So if you're an affiliate, are you truly promoting the very best of the very best from your humble opinion, or are you doing it because it's got legacy commission? Do you
Yeah.
understand? So you got to think of it that way. But anyway, hope everyone enjoyed the show today. What you got next? Now they've been marked safe from the event. Accelerate. We've been marked safe here. Yeah. What you got
Appreciate.
on at the moment before we go?
Focusing on the right click community, we're building that and officially launching it with
Yep.
Jeff and Abe. Super excited for it. And kind of like that's the whole focus at the moment. Plus a small event next week with Amazon on the technology side. So
Yeah, they come in to Europe, are they? They come into
mhm.
Italy. Yeah. Cool. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us again today. Back here next week. Ritu will be joining us. Go with the flow. We'll show you what's been cooking in the lab and see if there's some stuff there that you can take on for yourself. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again
Bye.
next week.